Space industry, of course, is emerging and growing a lot, and nobody knows where this industry is going towards. There's so much opportunities.
Sari and I's approach here, and with full buy-in and cooperation from the business, is to transform how the business operates. It's not just implementing a system, it's not just providing IT tools. It is fundamentally changing business process, changing the way that we work with our partners and our customers.
It's all about people and collaboration. Curious people are committed to make the change. And if you just enable people to do their best, miracles happen.
By providing the systems and the processes and the agility to transform more responsively, we enable the salespeople and the people building our products to adjust more quickly, and that's critical.
Welcome to the new automation mindset, where AI, automation, and integration come together. I'm your host, Markus Zirn, and as Chief Strategy Officer and part of the founding executive team at Workato, it is my mission to find these top innovators in AI, automation, and integration and share their journeys with all of you. This podcast is inspired by the Wall Street Journal best-selling book with the same title, written by Workato CEO Vijay Tella. If you would like a free copy of the book, be sure to listen for a special offer at the end of today's episode. Welcome, everyone. So I'm very excited about this episode today because I don't have just one guest. I have both Sari and Andy from Iceye. And so this is going to be really interesting. And what we're going to deep dive in today is really that interaction between the business side and the IT side. With let me introduce my guests. So we have Sari Vuola-Vuorinen, who's the head of business transformation and operations at Iceye. Long business career. You know, I think you did everything from banking, working at the Big Four, having strategy, finance roles, and now basically leading the commercialization at Iceye. And then Andy, many CIO, CTO, enterprise architecture roles in the past. Both of you have a long experience having done this before and coming now together at this, we really like the expression that Gartner has with the fusion team. A fusion team of the business person and the IT person coming together and being this complementary pair. So really excited to deep dive into your relationship, how you make this work at Iceye. And to start this off, first, give us a little bit of sense of the context. Like, who is Iceye? Maybe some people don't know Iceye yet. It's a really cool kind of space tech kind of company. Tell us a little bit about Iceye.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to join the call. And so let me talk about a bit Iceye. This is really interesting company. We are a new space company established in 2015 with the first SAR satellite in space, 2018. Our mission really is to share actionable intelligence through Earth observation. And the difference with our SAR satellite is that we can monitor Earth around the clock in all weather conditions. We are a scale-up company with around 600 people with 60 nationalities. We are originated and headquartered in Espoo in Finland, but very much present in and operating internationally very broadly. And our business portfolio actually consists of, we both design and build satellites for Earth observation purposes. We then operate the fleet of satellites. We gather SAR imaging using our constellation. And then we prepare analysis to help predict and monitor natural catastrophic events. But what we like to also talk about, that Iceye story is not about us, it's about you. So the story of Iceye is about the users of our Earth observation data, individuals within government and business organizations who are solving some of the hardest problems of the world faces today.
So this is really cool. I mean, this is It's a kind of company that could be like a Elon Musk kind of company, and I mean this in a good way, like a really cool technology company, kind of with enabling things that weren't possible before, observing the Earth with your satellite fleet that you have up there. So tell us a little bit, this scale-up company, 600 people. I think it was founded by scientists, out of grad school or out of their PhD. Like what does it, like if I enter the office, in Finland at Iceye, what does it look like? Who will I find? Is this a mostly Finnish company? Is it who are the kind of people that I will encounter?
Yeah, well, I joined Iceye a little over a month and a half ago, and I walked into a company with diverse nationalities, backgrounds, experience. We have 60 different nationalities throughout the business. And walking into the office here in Espoo, you just see a huge difference we have developers kind of at some of their early career. We have business leaders who have got experience like Sari and I, and everything in between. There is just such a unique set of backgrounds and experiences that we can leverage here at Iceye. And you can see that in the buzz that is around the office. There's places where people are just having, offhand conversations, they're solving problems in a breakout area. It's just a fun place to work. It's just interesting walking through and seeing some of the conversation and diverse behaviors we have.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. I mean, you probably get my accent. So we got a lot of Europeans around the table. I grew up in Germany, and I guess we'll count Andy in as a European.
Technically.
But I grew up in a different time where something like this didn't exist. And just recently, I walked into one of our Workato customers, Free Now, in Hamburg. And I saw something similar. It kind of felt like, you couldn't tell. Are you in Silicon Valley or are you in Europe somewhere? It, was almost indistinguishable, which is nice. And then tell me a little bit, because the people, so I imagine I probably talked to, and no offense, but some of the most adult, some of the most, the oldest people at Iceye here, I imagine. I think there's probably a lot of young people, a lot of people right out of school. How does that feel? And they probably don't know much about what we're going to talk about in a second, like business systems and IT and so on. How's that? How does that culturally, how does that work for you, for your jobs?
This is really interesting. And like you said, so the space industry, of course, is emerging and growing a lot, and there's so much need. So the competence and resource capacity is actually naturally coming straight from the university of GIS, analytics and space, engineering and both mechanical and electronical as well as data engineering. Of course, the people often kind of have this job as their first ever professional job, and they are coming from university with the technical capabilities and engineering hard skills, but the business exactly environment is totally new to them. And that's the beauty, I would say, also with the diversity that I'm used to call also it like, we are all actually engineers to a certain extent. Like I call myself also as a business process engineer or, business modeling engineer. We just come from a bit of different engineering, background or thinking logic, but actually we think all logically, and that's why we would kind of easily come together and work together.
Yeah, I think, again, my observation has been, given we have a lot of talent feeding through from universities, we have people that are open to change, and they're open to large-scale transformation that perhaps in more mature organizations isn't quite as easy to bring people along the journey with.
And curiosity is one, I would say, common factor that we all who are here, because, even we, a bit more senior people, we still keep our curiosity, awake, and that actually drives our interest towards also nobody knows where this industry is going towards. There's so much opportunity, so much, problems to solve. And that's, I think, the commonality, that we are all curious to see and build, and to do our best to satisfy, well, the humankind, the world, and of course our customers. And therefore that ties us together as a team.
And I think the experience shows that there's just so much potential in there. Michael Baum, who is on your board, I think one of your early investors, and I worked with Michael when I was at Splunk before he was the founding CEO. He actually, took some of the money he made at Splunk and he invested it. His thesis was he would only invest in companies with first-time founders, like right as their first job. And let me tell you, he's done really, really well with this thesis. So talk to us a little bit. So I'm really curious. So there's I talked about the fusion team of the two of you, complementing each other, but also taking that context at Iceye, which, some of your peers might be really jealous about. They were like, okay, I have a blank canvas almost, like, this is the ultimate greenfield. It's like, I can do whatever I can make this whatever I want this to be. There's nothing there. I'm building it up. And then I have young people that don't have any, bad habits, if you want, right? How does that feel like? Because I can imagine it can go either way. So either you're going to turn being that adult who's ruining the party, right? Or you're going to turn into that miracle coach that's really taking that team to, I don't know, the Premier League, right? So who's making them really successful? How does that happen every day? Or how do you go about this? And maybe also, what have you learned in the time that you were at Iceye?
I think, when I joined the company almost 2 years ago, and the task was given exactly to start, building these corporate applications and, to bring us to the level where we can actually act as a business, adding something above the strong, engineering skills and our core offerings. So I had to, of course, then come back exactly to those questions that, what do we need to do differently? What is the acceptance criteria? What is the culture? How do we work? And I think it's the same thing that when you go anywhere, it's all about people. I think we have brought, any of us who come outside and with the professional background, we come with certain professionalism and experiences, but we need to be also able to be humble and adaptive and think about exactly that. How do we then not exactly repeat and copy what we have done earlier, but rather adapt our practices, but try to also do it that fits to both the people as well as the company perspective. And for me, at least, I have been mostly working in the bigger, large-scale international companies. So the thing is that the scale-up is in many ways different. Kind of power of scale-up is that, like I said earlier, people are curious. We have fast pace. Our thesis is making impossible possible. And that, people who come to work with us, they are driven by that we can do something for the humankind, something that benefits the whole world. We are curious and we can almost make miracles every day. And then it comes back again that it's not only about the systems, but also exactly how do we work. And I took a very collaborative approach in the beginning. So just inviting people to start drawing and visualizing what we want to do, telling the story also where we are heading, what is the direction, why do we need to do these things, how does it help, and how do we also make sure that people come along, that they are supported, enabled. And this is a great opportunity for everyone to grow as also the business grows.
Yeah, I agree, Sari. And I think with what we've had to do in setting the vision of where we want to be, the outcome we want to achieve, and taking people along that journey with appropriate challenge because, we've got a wide range of experiences where people have been through this kind of transformation before. Other people have had sometimes negative experiences with this level of transformation, and some people it's completely new to. We're experiencing different challenges in the way that we tell the story and that we calibrate that vision as we go to ensure that we keep driving towards the outcome. It's definitely an interesting approach and something that we're learning from.
And one of our values is also driving effective teamwork, and people really truly believe in it. And that's kind of through the collaboration. We also want to live it every day. I think, the Agile work requires cross-functional teamwork and, effort to be able to be Agile, to be able to be, delivering high-performing teams and results requires, I think, diverse contribution of resources and assets towards this kind of clearly set goals, right? So it's almost like just, implementing what agility and Agile is about.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So, I came into this conversation really thinking about this is all about the collaboration between you and Andy, right? Which matters, the Fusion team. I think more and more I'm starting to believe there's actually more than that. There's a collaboration with the cross-functional teams. It's almost like you're driving Fusion teams that are happening across these end-to-end processes, where different functional teams also come together as units, right? There's more to that Fusion than just the two of you.
Yeah, and I think exactly because, like I mentioned, I think it's also about that we have so many engineering domains, and all those engineering domains are very strong on their certain, area. But the, world is about networks and ecosystems and actually integrating those competencies and activities and efforts to really make the higher performance and increased value to all stakeholders. And that's the Fusion I believe strongly in, is that, it's the teams who make this really happen. And we have also been, I think, successful in a sense that, people who have joined the teams and projects, they have been so, working hard, of course, but also it has been so much rewarding that they have seen that this can be also adding to their career path and their professional career, that we have been able to turn even those doubtful minds on our camp through these projects. So people have been asking after a year or so that I want to also be there because, there's so much different things and people seem to be good and happy after the transformational efforts.
Yeah, I think with Sari and I's collaboration, it is to define and calibrate that shared vision, ensuring we're bringing people along the journey. But it's also to set the focus and the priority as well, because we have a wide number of SMEs throughout the business that we are involving in our transformation journey. And, to ensure that we are maintaining our drive towards that shared vision, we're having to, constantly calibrate the performance against the prioritization of how we work, the partners that we leverage, and the tools that we use to achieve it.
And maybe also often in case you always have challenges and, cases, problems that you need to solve. I tend to also always bring back that, why do we do this? It's taking the outside-in approach also, that ultimately we are all contributing to the value chain and actually delivering to our customers. And that is always like settling the stage in a sense that, yes, definitely. So again, let's move on together.
So Andy, tell me a little bit. So, you've seen a lot of IT environments. CIO, CTO, enterprise architecture, and so on. I remember one thing you said when we prepped for this conversation a little bit was you said, I don't do ERP implementations, I transform businesses. And I think that's how, Andy, you and Sari, you kind of rally around that. Tell me a little bit how maybe at Iceye the IT environment is a little different from what you've seen before, or what's the magic that's happening there?
So, given the age of Iceye, we haven't acquired, the level of technical debt or monolithic systems that some businesses have that are, much older. They've gone through many different ERP implementations. So Sari and I's approach here, and with full buy-in and cooperation from the business, is to transform how the business operates. It's not just implementing a system. It's not just providing IT tools. It is fundamentally changing business process, changing the way that we work with our partners and our customers. And that really is a differentiator for me, to have the opportunity to influence the core workings of a reasonably, mature and sizable business is probably the unique thing. And, my IT team and my security team are here to support that, to be a service provider that can enable all of that to happen.
And then how do you? So I think we talked about the vision and where you want this to be, the big picture, if you want. Now, if you hit the road running and you go about this day by day, like how does that look like? I mean, I know you picked I guess CRM, ERP systems. You picked Workato to put some of this together. Like, what are the practical steps that you take, and how do you work against the long-term vision? Is there anything slightly different maybe from other things that you've seen in the past?
So from the first point, we've got a lot of flexibility to change business process, which in other organizations I've worked in, for various reasons, that just hasn't been possible. Part of our approach really is to wrap a high level of security, governance, control, and scalability within our processes and tools. So, we're front loading a lot of that work, and it's Sari and I's responsibility to ensure that we build that level of scalability into our ERP, CRM, our enterprise systems. And, what that really looks like is a lot of mapping, process engineering, collaborative workshops with our business stakeholders to understand really what outcomes do they need our help to drive.
And maybe adding to that, if many companies are talking nowadays that, acquiring, for example, low-code systems and so forth, you aim to democratize, the continuous improvement and development. It's easier for us because we started already by a democratized environment, almost like, everybody is contributing and working on different levels. So we are almost like taking, immediately whatever is strategic through the tactics to operations, and that's how we work across, our domains.
Yeah, you didn't have a king to first get rid of, I guess, right? So you started with a democracy, which makes it easier. I get it. But talk to me about this governance, because a democratization obviously is something that's near and dear to our heart at Workato. What we want to achieve. But there's a fine line, right? I'm sure Andy is sitting here as the head of IT and with security concerns, and also want to make sure that no bad things happen, right? And maybe on the other end, we want to drive like a new, I guess, call it process utopia, right? Where maybe it's all done differently and better and with less bureaucracy. But how do you get that aligned? How do you make sure that governance is like as democratic as possible, but it also, secure and basically safe for everyone? I don't know. Are you struggling with that, or is that coming naturally?
No, not at all. I mean, this is one of the benefits, I think, of Sari and I's combined experience, along with a whole host of other SMEs within the business, to kind of take those large-scale governance frameworks, control frameworks, to scale them appropriately for our size and requirements right now, but ensure that they're flexible enough and that they will scale as we grow. So because we don't have the level of history of other businesses, we're able to do that, and we have fundamental buy-in from the stakeholders that need to change business process to adopt to those frameworks of governance and control. It does make it not easy, but possible.
And there's also we are working in such a regulated industry as well. So it comes by, by the nature of our business. So people truly understand that we are working on that sensitive and, governed and restricted area and industry with the services. So it's easier, therefore, to, just add on these internal controls and governance as well.
Yeah, those highest standards of security and governance and control are quite honestly table stakes for us. We need to do them just to kind of sit at the table with some of our customers.
Can you maybe go into some specifics with like projects you're working on? So I heard there's something called a digital products and digital operations where you're trying to, use the process to really almost like innovate a little bit of what Iceye can do. I mean, there's some fundamental technology, these satellites, but now you can take this in different ways. You can commercialize it in different ways. Like how, if you take something like digital product or digital operations, how does the whole fusion team and collaboration and governance, how does this all come together?
I think without going into details, it's every company, of course, wants to automate their value chain and, be productive and effective. And like I said, have those, controls in place, which is more kind of enabled by also then systemized approach. But then, of course, all the companies are also looking at how to get closer and more intimate with their customers. So that's, of course, one thing that, our product is by nature digital because it is the SAR imaging. It's the radio waves that we translate into imaging modes. And now going forward, like I mentioned in the beginning, one of our business legs or business lines is that we actually do analysis. We are trying to kind of monitor, for example, the world and the natural catastrophe like events, for example, wildfires, and we do flood early warning analysis, that kind of thing. So, doing not only the data, but also then analysis and insight based on that data. So that's also something as a digital product. And then, of course, we said that we want to have intelligent information accessible. So I think that's already maybe talking about exactly digital product and digital operations. So very much that, building on to create accessible information and, more and more rich and informative information to different both commercial and, governmental users.
Yeah, for sure. And by building highly secure, robustly governed core enterprise systems, it enables our solutions and missions, businesses and data businesses to open up their portfolio, to offer more to the customer, to be able to do it in a scalable, cost-effective way. And really, we are working with them to enable just all of the things that before haven't been possible for them to offer to our customers.
So it seems to me like innovation and agility, you mentioned it multiple times, that's important, right? Because my sense is, so you're scaling the business, but you're probably still learning and you're probably still discovering new ways to commercialize. Is there any ways you think differently about setting up these processes in this more agile environment and in a more static environment in what you've done in your past? I'm just curious if there's certain design principles or some things you apply.
Yeah, from my perspective, coming from a marine electronics or fast-moving consumer goods business, we find that our product line, our offering to the customer changes more frequently. So by providing the systems and the processes and the agility to transform that more responsively, we are able to enable the salespeople and the people building our products to adjust more quickly. And in our industry where it's almost exploding in terms of capability and improvement of offering to the customer, that's critical.
Yeah, and I think maybe one additional thing is that when we really do invest and innovate, it means also that we need to accept trials and errors. So it's the culture as well that we actually do take the learnings and we adapt to the learnings very quickly. It also applies to our architectural discussion that, whether we move something in between or the systems and so forth. And it actually gives us the opportunity to talk more about the process, end-to-end process, where something makes sense in a sense of looking at that, where should, some data processing and transacting reside going forward. Whereas maybe, if in a biggest kind of company, you have maybe so much interdependencies and so much, stakeholders that this kind of changes, changing maybe architectural allocation of weight is lower. And with us, it's almost like every week that we are considering things that how do we do things smart, also going forward, as we know now the track record of the growth as well is different than when maybe we thought a year ago.
Yeah, with a loosely coupled architecture that we have, it enables us to try new things, experiment, and move on if they're unsuccessful.
Yeah, talk to me about the end-to-end process. I think you mentioned it multiple times. I think process has come really as one thing that I believe, if you introduce something to Iceye, you as a pair, I think it is about end-to-end business processes. So I'm, I out myself as a process geek. I've, that's how I started my career in business process reengineering. So I'm passionate about this. But, sometimes nowadays I hear sometimes people talking about process and it has almost like a negative connotation. It's kind of like, oh, process. It's something cumbersome. It's something, that feels like you're not free. You're kind of constrained. But tell me a little bit how this, how would people at Iceye today, after you come in and you work on that commercialization, you work on the end-to-end business processes, how do they think about end-to-end business processes, and maybe how do you feel about processes at Iceye?
Yeah, of course, again, like when we started, people thought here that they have processes when they had the system descriptions, the flow charts on how a system tasking or the system mechanism works. And then, of course, when I came and I took almost like the standard end-to-end processes, lead to order to cash, procure to pay, and record to report, and design to build, we started to, of course, then draw and visualize these kind of things. So it was fairly new to people, but immediately when we brought in also the stakeholders, that you have the customers, of course, you have the suppliers, and we talk about material flow or the promise to deliver. So then it connects immediately then back to, my tasking system or my, ordering handling system or something like that. It's really part of this chain of activities and effects, which is actually then remarkable or impactful to the customer, for example. So nowadays, when we talk about, for example, new product launches or, attribution we add or pricing changes or something like that, it comes already quite naturally, I would say, like a very different thing in a 1 year happened, that the product managers and engineers are already starting to pull in people that, hey guys, we are going to plan this kind of product change. How does it impact? So we don't talk about maybe so much about process framework or technically about processes, but we are already in the mindset of that we manage processes, and end-to-end processes mean more about, again, the collaboration, that it's not only my tasking and my process, but it's a process which collaborates and transforms over the functions throughout our resources, and therefore focusing on also value delivery to the key stakeholder.
Yeah, and then it's my job to kind of manage the demand for tooling or platforms to support those processes. So, we work closely together to ensure that we're proactively assessing that demand and moving it all the way through to actually launching a system that supports a process.
And maybe I was thinking also to adding that you asked earlier the governance and controls. So it's also more logical than to talk with people when somebody says that I need access to certain system or I need this task or, people are very innovative and capable of also, integrating systems if that's feasible. So then also nowadays we talk more about not like integrating those systems or scripting something in between two applications, but it's more about, hey, I would need to perform this kind of, event or task or deliver this kind of insight or so it has a bit changed also the language and the tone of how we work. And definitely we are not ready yet, but we can see already a more adaptation of that. We talk more about the same language, which is that how do we operate together?
And Andy, you mentioned I think one word you used, the loosely coupled architecture. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious in terms of techniques, so how you think about, providing that foundation for these processes. Is there something? I mean, are you trying to modularize? Are you mentioned loosely coupling, saying that you can change orders in the future? What specific techniques are you using in IT to support the end-to-end processes?
Yeah, so not so much to change orders, more to flex the tools and the systems that we provide. But by loosely coupled, I mean that we don't have systems like ERP tightly coupled, which means directly integrated with other systems. There's an abstraction or integration layer via tools like Workato to help us pivot and provide a consistent method of transferring data, integrating those systems that we can then change, because we're not changing fundamental architectures within big systems like ERP. We're simply changing how they integrate via the abstraction layer.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes total sense. And I believe this is, you have the ERP systems, but then you also have the Iceye system. A lot of this, the data will also come from your own system. So I don't think you can buy from the shelf what you need, right? You have to kind of assemble it to your business.
Yeah, there's we have to ensure those platforms are built to very robust standards, and they also we consistently have to map the performance to the required capability. So there's a fine tuning required that you sometimes don't get from just off the shelf systems. There's a high degree of management and sophistication in our backend system.
Mm. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I'm first of all, thank you so much for sharing all of this with the audience. I'm just curious to maybe bring this to closure. If you would give other peers who might be listening right now any advice, Sari, from, like, I think you spent 2 years now doing this at Iceye. Some things that you learned, and also maybe, Andy, just thinking about, is there something what you're doing differently here at Iceye that maybe people in more established organizations can actually adopt? Is there something that they can take away? So any advice here for the audience? I'm curious.
Yeah, if I start, so I repeat myself, but it's all about people and collaboration. And that's why, I like the diversity in practice being also that we can, through the collaboration, bring very much different people around the table. And, curious people are, committed to make the change. And then back to that, if you just are clear with the aspiration, the direction, the vision, and you then enable people to do their best, so miracles happen.
Yeah, a CIO I worked with previously gave me some good advice, which I took to heart, which was triangulate your stakeholders. And that's precisely what Sari and I have had to do to ensure that we get, real quality process engineering rather than, speculative, tactical, people trying to solve problems. We're getting right to the heart of what are the strategic requirements, and we're marrying up both business process and the technology to achieve that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Sari, Andy, thank you so much for spending the time here. I really appreciate it. I hope a lot more people learned about Iceye, about the cool things you guys are doing. And from me, at least, all the best with this big business transformation and scaling up Iceye to become like a really successful company. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Markus.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you like what you heard, we do have a special offer for you. If you share this or any other episode of the podcast on LinkedIn with the hashtag TNAM for the new automation mindset, that's TNAM, our team will reach out to you and make sure you get a free hardcover copy of the book by our Workato CEO, Vijay Tella. Please make sure to rate today's episode, leave us a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the show so you will never miss an episode. I'll see you next time.